Hey, welcome to the Foster Fathers Podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Kyle.
And this is a podcast all about foster care, adoption, and fatherhood.
We hope that you feel welcome. We hope that you feel that you belong. And we're glad that you're here to share this time with us.
Let's go. Well, hey, welcome to the Foster Fathers Podcast. This is episode 4, dude, right? We're doing this thing.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, we actually have had a pretty cool response to the first couple episodes, and
It's been a good start.
yeah, not that it's about that really, but it's cool to hear that there are other people inside this microphone that aren't our wives and our mothers.
Yeah, I think we crested 3. We're at 7.
Oh no, we're doing pretty good at that. We're doing way better than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Well, I'm Kyle
I'm Chris, and we're foster fathers
and foster brothers.
Ooh, there you go. That was
no.
really corny. And adoptive fathers. Well, you're on
Right.
the way, and
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of that, and so, we thought we'd take.
You want the update? I actually haven't given you the update.
Oh, let's get the update.
They said that actually we don't really have an update, but they said we're in paperwork, and we are going to be probably 2 months from now.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah.
So you're in the middle of that, dude. And that's something that I think we realize as we start this thing, that this is not only foster care dads, but foster or adoptive dads.
Right.
And that's something that
You can't kick me out of the podcast once they become adopted.
No, dude. You're in the
You're
middle
stuck
of this.
with me. You're stuck.
So we do want to. We had this idea of kind of a cool little opening segment almost every week.
Right.
Something that just reminds us we're in the middle of foster care and adoption.
Brings it to a daily level, and it doesn't always have to be this 30,000 foot overview.
Yeah.
It sometimes is the day-to-day things that you don't experience in foster care and adoption that you haven't experienced elsewhere. So you start this week in foster care, or this week foster care and adoption looks like.
Yeah, this week foster care and adoption looks like a paternity test. And not for me, obviously, but I know who my father is.
Is this Jerry Springer?
Yeah, that would be crazy. No, just I had to take our little guy in to a Walgreens, to this like little lab.
Wait, hold on. Walgreens?
100%.
No.
And it was just a moment when I'm sitting there like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like it's
I
a
mean,
wild
you haven't
thing.
done a paternity test.
Period.
Paternity test up until this point.
Yeah, with the situation here, I mean, even that, like me, like maybe the caseworker did it with our daughter, but I'm sitting there.
Right.
I go back with him.
Right.
And we're doing all the paperwork, and I'm almost like I'm like watching myself from the outside, like what is happening?
Yeah.
It's just an interesting thing, and I know that's not necessarily a specific thing to foster care and adoption, but
I mean, Maury.
yeah. But it was just a weird out of body moment where I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I texted you and I was like, this is foster care and adoption.
Yeah.
I am facilitating a paternity test
For a kid who's just a few months old.
Yep.
Yeah.
And dad's in the picture kind of. He's other part of the country.
Yeah.
And so so there's some things that we had to do there, but I was like, okay, that's wild.
Yeah.
So, but that's this week. So we'll do this every episode just to kind of keep it fun and real.
Okay.
You got the next one.
Okay.
But today we are diving into 3 things foster care and adoption is.
Okay.
And this is something that I think, we want to be a resource. We want to be relatable. We want to be someone that you can hopefully listen to and relate to, obviously. But then also just like, we also want to be a resource. Maybe you're on the journey of entering foster care or adoption, domestic or international. What is it?
Yeah.
And so we compiled kind of a list. We each had 3, and then we came down to 3 together. And
I mean, foster care is a lot more than 3 things.
Yeah. And this may be an ongoing thing where we dive deeper into one of these subjects. But
absolutely.
Let's
okay.
Maybe not 30,000. Let's go down to 20,000.
Okay. So Chris came up with 3. I came up with 3.
Yeah.
And we'll see how well they match.
Okay. And the first one we wrote was this:
foster care is
complicated.
Yeah.
Confusing.
And I said confusing.
Yeah.
Which
is the same.
Is very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. You start. What do you mean by complicated? I mean, because actually, you say this all. This is kind of your thing. Yeah. This is your go-to, and it fits so perfectly.
Well, we talked about this a little bit, and I forget whose story it was, but we talked about foster care being complicated in the sense that there's highs and lows. Not only in your home.
Mixed feelings.
Yeah, you brought kids into your home.
Right.
That's a roller coaster in itself.
Right.
But then there's the outside stuff where you're dealing with family issues. You're dealing with things where potentially someone's like defeat or someone's struggle is a victory on another front. And so the word complicated is the only word that I can really describe.
Yeah, complicated resonates for me when I think about, the fact that we are adopting 4 kids.
Sure.
People come to me all the time. Congratulations, that's so exciting. Yeah. And I think it's a genuine reaction. I don't think people are saying that just out of a pat answer, an easy answer. However,
caveat.
For me, who's involved on the day-to-day, I see how difficult that is for my children. The fact that it's exciting they have a stable home that they may not necessarily have had elsewhere. However, they lost.
Yeah,
none of my kids really knew their dads. So they didn't really lose their dad, but they definitely have an attachment to them. I mean, my kids still 2 to 3 times a week will say, "Hey, I miss my mom," and then we'll cuddle. We'll try to work through it as best as we can. When you're talking to a 4-year-old, there's not a lot that you can work through on that. But my 8-year-old's getting to a point where we can kind of talk through a little bit of that stuff. And so that's that complicated feeling that it is so exciting. We have 4 kids now.
Yeah.
But it is also devastating when you think about these kids. They're gaining 2 parents. They're losing their life beforehand.
Yeah, I spent some time on TikTok because somehow
who does it? I mean, it's 2024, dude.
If you can't guess between the 2 of us which one's probably going to do the tech stuff on this podcast, it's not him.
No?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Look at me,
dude. Your iPhone Mini, whatever it is, 7 or something.
It's an iPhone 8 Plus.
It's the good one. But I spent some time on there, shout out if you want to follow us on that stuff, that'd be great. But I'm posting content there, and I just clicked on our hashtags.
Shameless plug.
Dude, absolutely. We're trying to grow this thing. I clicked on the hashtag foster care adoption, foster care story.
Yeah.
And I was met with probably like 60-40 positive people like us sharing experiences, like how can we encourage each other. But then honestly, like a higher percentage than I would have thought.
Yeah.
Either adoptees, people who have been fostered, like in foster care, just their struggles. And like, it's not perfect. It's not admirable. And it was like a gut check to me where I was like, yeah, this is kind of complicated. Yeah. This is super confusing. This is not a straight line. This is like even in the best intention of homes, the best intention of domestic or international adoption, where, man, do you know where you came from? We saved you from so much. Maybe not like you as in, we would take this as like, we are saving you, but more of a, like we feel like we did a good thing here, and you have taken this so negatively. And there's so many emotions there, like I said, complicated, but it's not, this is so great and amazing that you did this.
Yeah.
Always. Right. It is fundamentally, but it also is so hard to think through the fact that somebody is struggling with the other side of the good thing that we did.
Yeah, it's not a complete whole. Yeah, it's not this just completely unanimous. This is a perfect flawless situation. There is an ugly backside, and it brings itself up. I mean, in unexpected places. Yeah,
and that was something that I think you hear people struggle with the fact that this is birthed out of trauma.
Yeah.
And that is just like the brass tacks, no matter how, even an infant adoption, I have a good friend that they're about to adopt right from birth.
Right.
That's still a trauma. And that's something that I think is such a hard thing. And although that's a great, wonderful, like amazing thing, it's complicated.
It's complicated.
You said confusing, which is similar.
Yeah,
but what
I
did
said
you mean?
Confusing, and I think, it'll also lead into our second one. But confusing is you don't always know what to think. Yeah. You don't always know what to think. Like you said, is this a positive? Is this a negative? Yeah. It's very hard to be raising somebody else's kid, not knowing what they've experienced, fully, not knowing how those things have affected them fully. You're learning it on the fly.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's also just it's confusing because, no parent as a parent, you're learning this. You're learning everything as you go.
Yeah.
In a sense, I mean, you can read books, you can learn from others.
This is every parent,
but every time you get no parents had a 4-year-old before. So you're learning how to parent a 4-year-old for the first time. Until the second time around. But then the second time around, you're learning to parent 2 kids at once. And so it's just confusing because you don't always know how to react and you don't know how to prepare, which is the second one I said. Foster care is impossible to prepare for.
Yeah, and mine was unexpected.
Right.
And so I think what I meant by that was the fact that it's just you're going in. We go through this training, and it's please hear that it's wonderful.
Yeah,
like I think Tracy and I, my wife, we finished our 30-day or month-long training and said that was actually really helpful.
Yeah,
and then you still feel unprepared.
Yeah. Which actually Tracy is preparing to be
a trainer, dude.
A trainer of those. That's great.
Yeah,
full cycle coming back around.
Yeah.
I was talking with they're called RPMs, at least here in Idaho. It's a resource peer mentor.
Yep.
Which Chris and I got solicited to become, and I'm still adjusting to being a dad of 4, and doing swim lessons and
just life
appointments and life and pickups and drop-offs and sick kids. Man, our kids could they just not be sick at the same time?
Yeah.
That'd be so much easier. Hey, let's pick Thursday and Friday. Let's be sick Thursday. It's unexpected.
Yeah.
It's impossible to prepare for.
Yeah.
But anyways, I was talking with our RPM resource peer mentor, and she was saying, you cannot completely teach what you need to know.
Yeah.
And then not to mention on top of that, she was talking us through some of the ins and outs of adoption and what you need to look for on the paperwork you're filling out and what things that you don't necessarily, you've never gone through that situation before. And honestly, I could come to you and say, hey, what's it like having a 6-year-old? Right.
Yeah.
But I can't go to everybody. I can't, not everybody has raised a 6-year-old who's experienced the level of trauma that she's now 7 as of last week.
Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah.
Kyle went to Chuck E. Cheese. He kept them in business. I don't even know.
Dude.
I was like, did you mean to do Chuck E. Cheese? Like a guy named Chuck?
Oh, no, dude. She was adamant.
Oh, I love it.
She prepped us for probably 3 months. When my birthday comes, can we go to?
Oh,
no,
that's awesome.
I want to go to Chucky. There was no other option, dude.
That's great.
And I will say this: Chucky has a new costume, but he is as creepy as ever.
Turns out robot rats are weird.
So, anyways, I was talking with our RPM, and she said, you just can't be prepared fully because there is such a milieu and specifics to each kid, specifics to each circumstance. We had one kid, then we added 2 more, and then we sent one of them back with her mom, and then we got 2 others. And it's just there's no standard experience. So it's impossible to prepare for it.
Say you are considering hopping in, or you're in the middle of it, or I was talking to a friend today who was like, I had no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
And there are some people that don't handle that level of ambiguity well.
Yeah, right.
And it in a sense creates the burden in itself.
Yeah.
The thought of, I'm probably a little bit more, I don't know who you are, but I tend to just roll and just go, okay, well, I just got to react it and go forward and try and do my best through it.
I did better at that at the beginning of this than when I all of a sudden had 4 kids.
Yeah. And when you have expectations, those are also prone to, let you down or, be skewed and be hard to deal with.
Your expectations won't be met.
Yeah. But just be prepared for that.
Right.
It's literally impossible to prepare for because every example you may have some varying degree of that example.
Yeah.
But your kid's unique response, your kid's unique whatever.
Right.
Is impossible to prepare for.
Yeah, I will say, and as we go along, I shared last time or the time before one of the books that I'm reading that helps me give understanding to kids and people who have experienced trauma, and it's that is very helpful.
Yeah.
However, I think if I would have read that book before, I don't know if it actually would have prepared me because I wouldn't have had a context. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we will be sharing throughout this ways that we think it can help you adjust, ways that you can prepare, ways that you can react and learn and grow. Mm-hmm. But you're absolutely right. I mean, remove your expectations and work toward flexibility, work toward being able to be shaped and grow on the fly. Well, and that's really hard.
The thing that's really hard about that moment is the fact that it feels then overwhelming. Yeah. Because when you don't know what to expect and it happens, it feels like, is this normal? Am I supposed to feel this? Is this insurmountable? Right. And know that just as an encouragement on maybe in the middle, I don't know, the other side. Yeah. You'll get through.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I've only been doing this for a year and a half. Mm-hmm. However, if there is someone out there who's new in this or older than this, if you have suggestions, if you have questions, we'll utilize our contacts and get you information. I got a couple books for parenting, traumatized kids, that type of stuff. But, I routinely get advice from a couple people who have not been in a situation anywhere near ours, and their advice can be off base because they don't understand. They raised kids going through it in a traditional upbringing, and so it's hard.
It definitely has value.
Yeah, I take that stuff. However, there also is just a realization that for these special circumstances, you got to find things that fit those special circumstances. So if you got questions, hit us up on on whatever what
socials.
Hit me up on Instagram. I don't know, or hit Chris up. Really, let's be honest. Let's hit Chris up on Instagram.
Tell me and I'll tell him. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Last one. We kind of diverged on a little bit. And I wrote rewarding because maybe this is just the differences in our personalities, dude.
What are you, an optimist or something?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I said foster care is lonely. Yeah. Lonely.
Yeah, and that's, for me.
And I can explain that in a bit. Sorry, I cut you off, but I'll explain. No. Yeah, go ahead. Rewarding. I agree. Yeah. I do agree. Go ahead.
Yeah, I said rewarding just because, I don't know, there are just moments to that same thought, like I mentioned earlier, where someone who's on the other side, someone who's been adopted, may experience something based on the unknown and then look back with negative views. Yeah. I look at my daughter now and just she's having a birthday party, your daughter. Yeah. And there are moments like that where I'm like, wow, she's going to go to school soon, or she's going to have she has siblings in my situation. Right. That, who knows what happened. Right. We not that it's about us, but those moments that are rewarding where I go, wow, however this really shakes out in the middle of the journey, the reward's there. Yeah. She's having these moments. She's having this life. Yeah. She's completely ambiguous too right now. Yeah. But
our 7-year-old just won an award at school for her class. Every class, there's 5 different series that they win for, and our daughter won for I do my best. Huh. Yeah, which means and that is rewarding to see that. At the beginning of the year, this girl who struggled, honestly, most days she was in the school counselor's office, just working her way out of a fit. And to go to an award of saying, hey, I work hard every day. Mm-hmm. It is rewarding, to see her overcome, to see her conquer those things. It definitely is rewarding. And then the other night, I think it was more by just reactive response, but I said, good night, I love you. And she said, I love you too, Kyle.
Oh, that's a moment, dude.
That's a moment, dude. Yeah. That's a moment. It's only the second time in 7 months that she has told me that she loves me. And
suddenly all the crap in that moment probably was like, all right, I'm in.
So it is good. It is good.
Cool.
Because sometimes you don't see the growth. Yeah. Yeah. But I also will say most times these days it feels Like we're still in the as Taylor Swift would say, are we out of the woods yet?
Are we out of the woods yet? Are we out of the woods yet?
Are we out of the woods? And my wife would say, no, we're not. We're not. And stop singing on the podcast.
That's cool. Okay.
I would say mine is lonely.
Yeah.
And I will say, I mean, for all the similarities that you and I have, 4 kids, fostering and adopting, we did not have any biological kids.
Sure.
So for me, I feel as if I'm experiencing something that no one else has experienced. When I go to the park, and a kid has a meltdown.
Sure.
Not my kid. Let's say someone else's kid. For me, I feel all these feelings of what's normal. I don't realize that that's normal. I feel as if I'm unique. I feel as if people are going to stare at me and know instantly, looking across the playground, that dude is a fraud, so it just feels as if I'm isolated in my experience, and most other people don't notice that. In fact, I was at a restaurant tonight, and this lady said, oh man, they just grow up so fast, and I'm thinking, yeah, it's been a while, it's been a quick year and a half, but in her mind, she's thinking I've had these kids forever, and she couldn't tell the difference. But in my mind, I feel that. So it sometimes feels lonely. It feels as if, again, I mean, most parents aren't taking their kids to multiple counseling sessions, parental visits. I was reflecting with a fella the other day. One of our kids most likely experienced drug and alcohol in utero, exposure in utero. And I was explaining something about his behavior, and he's like, well, 4-year-olds. And I was like, well, yeah.
Kind
of.
Yeah.
And so it just, it does feel, people try their hardest.
Yeah.
To understand what you're going through, but it feels unique. So that's where I say that lonely piece comes.
Well, and I think I get that way too. And a lot of the times, not to discredit what you're saying by any means, but a lot of times that's like in your head. You're lonely in your head a lot. And that's just real. That's like, there's no way you don't do that.
Yeah.
And that's when you have to lean in and like, what's true.
Right.
And what's happening.
Which is so nice to come to you. And there, I
yeah.
I think one of the times I actually got mad at Chris, and he probably doesn't know this because I kept it to my chest, but I can't remember the specific circumstance that I was venting about at one of our lunches or coffees or whatever we were doing. But you said, well, bro, I'll try to do my best Chris voice. Well, bro, sounds like parenting. And I was like, no way, dude. This is normal.
Yeah.
This is normal. Because it just felt so extreme on my end. But in fact, it wasn't. But yeah. One thing I do want to add on rewarding, just to go back to that, because I think I've said everything I can say on the lonely part. But it is really hard. It's someone compared it to, you have a plane that took off and you're putting it together in the air.
Oh yeah.
And that's where I feel.
Or if you're a Boeing, you're
falling.
Sorry.
No. Pop culture. But I often think about how this is shaping me and how this is growing me. And I think that if I didn't have the extreme circumstances that I'm in, I wouldn't be thrust into the opportunity to grow. I wouldn't feel the need because things would be tamer.
Yeah.
My situation wouldn't be as rocky.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have to bolster, with education and thoughtfulness and introspection.
Absolutely.
Which are coming very hard, but I'm trying to be intent on those. But it pushes me harder.
Absolutely.
The harder situation you're in, you have 2 choices. You can either let it affect you negatively, or you can let it refine you and grow you. And I think that's what I'm working toward.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong. Don't let me beautify the situation. It is really hard, but it is something that I cling to, thinking, this is going to challenge me to be a better person. and it is good for me as well. And then, it is rewarding because you get to see the depths of kids who don't even care that you exist, even though you do feel like you're saving them in some senses. You're trying to be this hero and you just feel like a villain, but it is rewarding to see myself grow as well, not just those kids. So
good. Well, as we wrap up this episode, let's leave with this thought. So, what's something that you'd want to say right now in the context of all that? I know hopefully that was helpful. What's something that you would want to say to someone maybe in the middle of it, maybe they're on the other side of it, maybe they're starting it? What's something you want to say to them?
I mean, attach yourself to somebody else who can help give you perspective and context. Don't do it. Don't be lonely. Like you said, that is in your head. Don't be lonely. Don't be a loner. Find that person, find somebody, because I guarantee you someone else is out there looking for the same thing, And
maybe you're listening to this and you need to text somebody and you know who you need to text. Text that person.
Dang, dude.
Call that person, whatever you need to do. It is something that's real, because I think that's something you don't even really realize, because, and I'm very much guilty of this myself, that I'm living in this cycle in my own head. And if I don't break it, tell my wife, tell somebody, I'm going to spin and I'll be off an island somewhere and be like, what happened? And then, it
doesn't have to be lonely.
Worry and anxiety, keeps you that way. So
is that your takeaway, or do you got?
No, same thing. I'll roll with that. That's a good one. Okay, I think that's a good spot on this episode. So 3 things foster care is. And so stay tuned. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys in a little bit. Peace.